This is Black Unbounden, the place where silence turns into thunder, where doubt is swallowed by resilience, and where every story reminds us that struggle is not the end, it is the soil of triumph. Malik, his name was Malik Carter, and from the very beginning, his life had been a war against the labels others stuck on his back. Born in a cramped two-bedroom apartment on the South Side, Malik was the kind of child who listened more than he spoke, the kind who watched his mother work double shifts at the hospital and then come home with swollen feet, still finding a way to smile at him and his younger sister, Layla. His father had been gone since he was 9, chased off not by lack of love, but by the kind of pressure that breaks men when the world offers them no breathing room. For Malik, that absence burned like a silent vow. If the world tried to count him out, he would fight until it had to count him twice. He was smart, sharp in the classroom, the kind of boy who raised his hand with answers not because he wanted attention, but because he carried the weight of proving himself. Teachers noticed. Some nurtured him. Others looked right through him. He remembered one day in 10th grade when a substitute teacher leaned across his desk and whispered, "Boys like you don't end up in boardrooms, Malik. They end up in courtrooms." She thought she was being clever. She didn't realize those words carved into his skin. Malik carried those scars when he took his first job at a corner store after school. He was 16, sweeping floors, stacking cans, ringing up customers with polite, "Yes, ma'am," and "Thank you, sir." But he noticed how the owner, a wiry man named Mr. Benson, watched him through the security mirror every time he walked down an aisle. He noticed how customers clutched their bags tighter, how women slid their purses to the other side, as if his skin itself was suspicious. One night, after closing, Malik reached for a soda from the cooler. Mr. Benson stepped in front of him and snapped, "You pay for that first. I don't run a charity." Malik froze, the bottle still unopened, his pay envelope in his pocket. That was the night Malik swore, "One day, I won't just work in places like this. I'll own them." But O's are heavier than they sound. He graduated, stumbled through community college because tuition strangled him, then transferred to State University where he studied finance by day and worked janitorial shifts by night. Sometimes, while scrubbing marble floors in tall office buildings, he'd pause and look up at the glossy company logos on the walls. He'd imagine his own name there. He'd whisper to himself, "One day, Malik Carter Enterprises." It felt impossible. But impossible was a word he had learned to distrust. His best friend, Jamar, walked this road with him. Jamar, the kind of kid who grew up with laughter louder than his troubles, the one who cracked jokes even when eviction notices were taped to the door. Jamar's mother ran a hair salon out of their kitchen, braiding from dawn until midnight, while his father worked odd construction jobs. Where Malik was quiet fire, Jamar was loud sunshine, always scheming up ways to make $1. In high school, Jamar sold sneakers, candy, even mixtapes he burned from his cousin's computer. But beneath that hustle was the same hunger Malik carried, a refusal to let the world write his story. The two were inseparable, two sides of the same coin. Malik the planner, Jamar the risk-taker. They dreamed together, business together, freedom together. But the world kept reminding them of their place. One memory branded itself into Malik's bones. He and Jamar were 20, still in college, dressed in their only button-downs, walking into a real estate office to ask about buying their first rental property. The receptionist looked them up and down, smirked, and said, "We don't give tours for students. You boys looking for jobs? We got openings for janitors." The laughter that followed burned hotter than any fire. Malik clenched his teeth so hard his jaw hurt. Jamar put an arm on his shoulder and whispered, "Let it fuel you, bro. Let it fuel you." And it did. Malik and Jamar scraped together money from odd jobs, small investments, even borrowing from friends. Their first attempt at business, a car wash, failed within 6 months. The water bills drowned them. Their second attempt, a small food truck, collapsed after the engine died, and repairs cost more than the profits. People laughed at them, called them wannabe bosses. Malik nearly quit. But Jamar refused. "Every L is a lesson," he'd say. "We ain't failing, we're training." The training paid off. Malik finished his degree, got a steady job in banking, and learned the language of money from the inside. Jamar built a following online selling sneakers and streetwear. They reinvested every dime. By their late 20s, they had enough to buy their first duplex. Then another. Slowly, painfully, the empire began. But the world still tried to humiliate them. One winter evening, Malik walked into a plaza on the north side, a polished strip of stores he dreamed of owning one day. He stepped into a boutique to buy a gift for his mother. The moment he entered, silence fell. The cashier's eyes narrowed. A security guard trailed him down every aisle. When Malik approached the counter with a scarf, the manager sneered, "Sorry, this is too expensive. Maybe check the clearance rack." Customers chuckled. Malik felt his ears burn. He laid the cash on the counter anyway, paid in full, walked out in silence. But inside, his spirit roared, "One day, I'll buy the ground you stand on." That vow became the cornerstone of his mission. Years rolled on. Malik and Jamar grew bolder. They partnered with black investors, pooled resources, and learned how to negotiate with banks that didn't want them at the table. Doors slammed in their faces. Loans denied. Meetings cut short when they walked in. Still, they pushed, until the day finally came when the plaza itself, the one where Malik had been humiliated, went up for sale. The same plaza, the same glass storefronts, the same ground where his dignity had once been mocked. Malik gathered the paperwork, every bank statement, every projection, every investor contract. It wasn't just a deal. It was destiny. And this is where Judge Whitaker enters the story. A silver-haired man, stern on the bench, feared in the courthouse. But before he was Judge Whitaker, he had been a young lawyer who once lost his first big case against a corporation that trampled a black family's land rights. That defeat haunted him. He buried it under decades of rulings, becoming known as strict, unbending, uncompromising. He told himself justice had no color. But deep down, the memory lingered. The day he looked across the courtroom and saw a trembling black family walk out empty-handed, their farm gone, their legacy erased. He knew he had failed them. He swore he would never let weakness cloud him again. Over the years, his heart hardened, until Malik's case landed on his desk. Because the plaza sale wasn't smooth. Competing buyers, wealthier, whiter, better connected, tried to block Malik's deal. They filed injunctions, challenged financing, whispered that Malik was a front with no real backing. And so the battle moved from boardrooms to the courtroom. The day of the hearing, the air crackled with tension. Malik walked in wearing a tailored navy suit, the kind he bought secondhand but made look regal. Beside him, Jamar adjusted his tie nervously. Across the aisle, the opposing attorney, polished, smug, smirked as though victory was already signed. Judge Whitaker presided, gavel in hand. The gallery was full. Community members who believed in Malik, critics who doubted him, even the store manager from that boutique, whispering in the back row. Malik rose. His hands did not shake. In his grasp was a glowing folder, the evidence of every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every dollar earned honestly. He laid it on the table with reverence. The opposing attorney scoffed. "Your Honor, this young man is chasing fantasies. He doesn't have the capital, the credibility, or the capacity to manage such a property. Let's not waste the court's time." Malik's voice cut the air like a blade. "With respect, Your Honor, this is not about fantasies. This is about facts. This is about a community long denied the chance to own what it builds. And today, I stand not just for myself, but for every young man who's been told he doesn't belong." He opened the folder. Contracts gleamed under the lights. Bank approvals. Investor commitments. proof of solvency, pages of projections, each one a bulletproof shield against doubt. The courtroom held its breath. The jury, though symbolic in the civil hearing, leaned forward. The gallery froze, tears in eyes. The judge's gavel trembled in his hand. Judge Whitaker stared at Malik. In his eyes, he saw not just a lawyer, not just a man. He saw the ghost of that family he once failed. He saw resilience forged in fire. He saw justice demanding to be recognized. For a long moment, the courtroom was silent. Then Whitaker spoke. The court recognizes the validity of this purchase. The property shall be transferred to Mr. Malik Carter and his partners. The gavel fell like thunder. The gallery erupted. Tears, cheers, applause. Jamar hugged Malik, so hard his folder nearly fell. The opposing attorney slumped. Disbelief etched across his face. The boutique manager lowered her head, and Judge Whitaker, for the first time in decades, allowed himself a small, almost invisible smile. Redemption whispered in silence. Malik walked out of that courtroom, not just as an owner, but as a symbol. He stood on the steps outside, the folder still glowing in his hand, and spoke to the crowd. This is not just my victory. This is ours. We will no longer be renters of our own dreams. We will be owners of our future. And so the plaza became his. Not just buildings, but a beacon. He lowered rents for small black businesses. He opened a scholarship fund in his mother's name. He gave space to Jamar's store, which became a hub for young entrepreneurs. The same ground that once humiliated him now bowed to his vision. This is Malik's story. But it is also the story of every underestimated soul. Every child told you can't. Every dream laughed at. Every door slammed. This is what happens when resilience becomes louder than rejection. This is Black Unbounden. Remember, justice is not given, it is claimed. And when you rise, you do not rise alone. You carry your people with you. So if you felt this story, let it move you. Comment your thoughts. Share it with someone who needs hope. And subscribe for more. Because here, we turn silence into thunder. Here, we make the struggle unforgettable. Here, we remind the world we are